What's perhaps proven to be most iconic about Silent Hill is its visual design. The fog and snow-filled streets aren't this game's primary aesthetic. Every so often, as you progress through the game, the world shifts into a nightmarish reflection of itself, where floors and walls are replaced with rusted metal grates and fences, with giant industrial fans and hanging corpses amongst a darkness that stretches endlessly. And every time the world shifts into this nightmare realm, it's prefaced by a World War II air siren in the distance. The first shift during your exploration of Midwich Elementary School is probably the first real moment of terror in this game outside of its short prologue, as after the first hour or so of the game that you spend exploring the empty streets of Silent Hill and the abandoned school, you open a door into this nightmare world and realize that whatever sort of horrifying world you may have been in before, this one is infinitely worse. All this time, you'd been in the nice version of Silent Hill. This is where the real horror begins. The game has a recurring motif of disorientation and nightmares, of never really knowing what's going on or what's even real. The game opens with a nightmare sequence where you encounter this otherworld in an alley before Harry is attacked and seemingly killed, only to awaken perfectly fine in a diner a few blocks over. Throughout the story, there are numerous instances where Harry seems to black out and wake up clear on the other side of town with no explanation, and it's only once the game is in its final stretch that we see the shift from reality to nightmare happen before our eyes. There are even certain rooms in the game that defy the logic of any maps, with certain doors teleporting you to separate floors entirely, or a mysterious fourth floor suddenly appearing in the hospital's elevator and triggering the shift into the nightmare world. Which is probably my favorite subtle scare in this game. Occasionally, the game even uses the mirrored worlds to execute scares via repetition and subverted expectations. During the school segment, for example, there's a fake-out jump scare involving a cat trapped in a locker, and when you revisit that locker in the nightmare world, the same knocking can be heard, more frantic this time, only to suddenly stop and reveal nothing. But just as you turn to leave... Throughout the entire game, we can never quite tell whether any of this is actually happening or whether it's all in Harry's head, which the game even leans into with its bad ending, where we see the entire story was actually the dying nightmare of Harry, who sits bleeding out in his crashed Jeep. But even in its true ending, the game seems through and through designed to make the player question everything, while still keeping things vague enough to remain terrifying in its mystery. The game's final area, simply called Nowhere, is especially disorienting, being a jumbled amalgamation of previously visited rooms all in one space, with no map available and no logical progression between rooms. So right to the very end, there's always a general feeling that something is not right here, as if reality itself has been distorted.